Welcome to Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. On this podcast, my guest and I will discuss topics and ways to help us to heal in every area of our lives. I believe that everyone can live a life that is happy, healthy, and whole. So I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get to it. Hey guys, real quick, before we jump into the episode, I need you to do the 3 S's for me. What is that? First of all, I need you to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss an episode of our podcast. Number 2, I need you to share it with your family and friends. Don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone else. Lastly, I need you to say something. Leave us a comment. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know what you want to see from us, what you like, what you don't like. We are open to your suggestions. We want to know everything that you want to let us know about the podcast. All right. Now, get back to the episode. All right. Welcome to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. I am your host, Ernest James, and I believe that everyone can and should live a life that is whole, healed, and healthy. And therefore, I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. Thank you guys once again for tuning into the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. If you haven't already, make sure that you listen, like, subscribe, and share to our podcast. And also make sure you guys are checking us out on our new YouTube channel, which is the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network. Once you get there, you will find the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast is there, as well as our sister podcast, which is the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. Both of those are on our YouTube channel, which is the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network, as well as some other podcasts that we are piloting. I think that's the word is. Some other podcasts that we have on there as well. Again, so that's the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network on YouTube. Make sure you guys go there and check us out. Also, our product of the week, as you guys know, we are a self-sustained podcast, and the way that we stay on the air is by bringing you amazing products for you to purchase. And our product of the week is our Purpose Journal, as well as our Purpose Planner, because I believe we are to journal to be able to keep track of where we've been and where we are, as well as plan for our future. So you guys can get your copy of our Purpose Journal and our Purpose Planner on Amazon. The links are in the description. Also, so there's some other great information in our description under this episode. So make sure you guys go there and check that out as well. But today, just like any other day, we are blessed with a guest. Miss Heather, how you doing?
Doing great. Thanks, Ernest.
No problem. No problem.
I love your mission. I love your mission. Every aspect of your mission statement.
Thank you. I'm trying to do some good stuff out here. But I want to say thank you for being on, because you could have been doing anything else with anyone else, but you're here with me and my listeners, and so we definitely appreciate it. So Heather, we're going to jump right into this thing. Do me a favor, introduce yourself to my audience and tell us a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do.
My name is Heather Sunderland, and I am a functional health coach. I help people restore their health from chronic complex conditions. My specialty is around Lyme disease and mold toxicity and chronic inflammatory response syndrome. Because I had a journey of 22 years of undiagnosed Lyme and a lifetime of mold exposure that I did not know about. So I was pretty sick and disabled from the age of 30 to the age of 58. And I am now 60. And I'm not sick, still peeling away a few layers, but I've reversed I had 20 illnesses. I've reversed them all. Still, like I said, still some layers I'm peeling away. But I love coming alongside others and helping them get to the underlying root of their chronic issues. And mold can often be a piece of that, not always Lyme, but mold is often an unknown piece of that.
Good. I definitely want to get into that because I have some questions myself. that I like to ask. But let's go back into your story because you mentioned about you having these chronic illnesses yourself. And so let's go back a little bit about your story and your experience that even brought you to the space that kind of what you went through to get you even to the space that once you kind of figured out for yourself that you then decided to begin to help others as well.
So you want me to share a little bit more about my story?
Yes.
Yeah. So to make a long story short, and if you have questions, you can ask. Um, I had a lot of issues growing up health wise, but they didn't interfere with life. Asthma, irritable bowel. And by the time I was 30, I developed chronic daily pain, fibromyalgia. I was labeled with chronic fatigue syndrome. I was a dietitian in private practice, and I had to close my practice when I was 35 because I had neuropathy, and the neuropathy was quite severe, and my walking got progressively worse. And as the years went on, I just started accumulating labels. And I was put on medications to treat the symptoms, and we didn't know what really was wrong. I developed irritable bladder. I had ligament laxity. My vertebrae didn't stay in place. And so I was at the chiropractor 3 times a week for
Mm,
8 years in a row. It wasn't until I chose to enter health coaching school, which was really to try to figure out what was wrong with me at the time. And I always, because I had been a dietitian and had a private practice, I always wanted to help people. And I always blamed everything that was wrong with me on Lyme. It wasn't until I was 52 that I was diagnosed with chronic Lyme, and we treated the Lyme and I improved, but we were missing a lot of pieces. And it wasn't until health coaching school during COVID, I developed Graves' disease where my thyroid was overactive. I would be awake for 72 hours at a time. It was just a very dark season. I had active mono and I had the Lyme reactivated, and I didn't know Lyme could come back. And
mm,
a friend in health coaching school, my colleague friend who's in Chicago, where you are, said, Heather, I think you're dealing with mold toxicity or chronic inflammatory response syndrome, which is really the toxic bucket of the body overflowing and it just making you very sick. And it can affect people differently. And I went and had blood work done, and I had chronic inflammatory response syndrome. My new builds in the desert actually had some toxic mold, not
mm,
awful levels, not like the clients I deal with. And I went to doctors to try to treat mold toxicity in SIRS, and I was not getting better with what they were doing. I was down to 10 foods that I could eat. And I found this approach called the regenerative approach, which focused on using food as medicine. And within 3 days of their approach, I went from 10 foods to 11 foods and just started to see these very gradual shifts. I had trouble walking and standing, and by 6 months, I wasn't using assistive devices to walk. 3 months, I stopped needing to go to the chiropractor because of this ligament laxity.
mm,
So my issue was really an issue of toxicity and pathogens. And as I started to use food to gently detox and support my body, I just started to come back to life. I had symptoms in the process of healing because I was sick so long. I had symptoms every single day, but I also was seeing these huge shifts in my health. So at 23 months, I no longer had Lyme. I no longer had mold. I no longer had SIRS, and I had reversed, all those illnesses. I still spent it's been like 3 more years peeling away. My body was still letting go of things that didn't belong in my body, so I still had symptoms. But it was just the bucket emptying, which is what we
mhm.
want, right? Creating that internal environment that the body can let go of what doesn't belong there. So,
Yeah.
but I was health coaching the whole entire time I was healing. Wasn't really my intention to help coach mold, Lyme, and SIRS, but God had other plans. I could not get away from the mold piece. Everybody who found me was living in water damage and didn't know it. Didn't matter what the label was: cancer, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, POTS. It didn't matter what it was, diabetes. There was water damage either in their past or in their present, and a lot of times it was in their present, and they didn't know it, they didn't see it, they didn't smell it. So I thought, okay, Lord, this is what I'm doing. So I've been sort of on a mission to educate people about that missing piece. The water damage can be huge, even in the Lyme community. And not that I don't love educating people about Lyme, but everybody I know with Lyme is in mold, and you can't get better when you're
Mhm.
often living in a toxic water damaged building, especially if you don't know about it and you
Right.
don't address it.
Yeah, yeah. And I want to, two things I want to touch on, right, with what you said, some of the things that you said, which I love. The first thing is healing yourself with food. I'm kind of just starting this journey of wanting to be more healthy, and really kind of looking into the natural remedies of health. And I think that the food piece plays such a major part in our health now, because I think we don't even realize how much chemicals and different things that we're eating and processes that things are going through. And that's why we can't live to our ultimate health. Like even with me, I'm relatively healthy, and I started running again and things of that nature. But even with that, there's still some parts that, because of what I eat, maybe I'm not at the optimal health that I would like to be on. And so, how do you feel? How do you think? Just our changing our eating habits. How much of an effect could that have? On our just our day to day well being.
Food is critical to be eating healthy, clean, non-processed food. And I think we're a society where everything's such a quick fix now, right? We're driving through food and buying convenience food because we're busy. But 50 years ago, people sat down to dinner, right? It was a more relaxed environment. The meals were homemade. um, that we're being exposed so much, not just in our food, right? We're unknowingly being exposed in our air, in our water, in our
Mm,
homes to toxic chemicals, skincare, hair care, like you name it,
mm,
at levels that people were never exposed to before. And like my son is in his early 30s, all of his friends have autoimmune diseases. And I really think it's diet along with, right, those exposures that we're just not aware of. And our body was designed to be able to deal with these toxins, but we're being overloaded with them
yeah,
in a way that until you start thinking about it, and see it, then you're like, wow, it makes a little bit more sense. It's almost unintentional that everybody can be very toxic just because I live off a golf course. If I had thought about it, I never would have moved near a golf course because I never thought about chemicals that they spray on the golf course, right? And
mm,
the wind is like, right, I'm out there walking on the golf course and outside and I'm breathing that in, so I need to be doing things to detox that and get some of those chemicals out of my body so they don't build up. And people have different genetics. I have poor genetics for detox. It doesn't mean you can't detox. Um, but I had some poor genetics. So then it becomes even more critical to do things to support your body. And food is a great way to clean up your diet and help your body detox. And just starting with whole fresh food is a great place to start. Just getting rid of the drive through, the fast food, the
yeah.
convenience food, and just eating food and making it into a fresh made meal.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Yeah, I'm at the beginning of that journey, trying to do some things to be more healthy. I'll be 50 soon. So I'm like, all right, let me get on
But
this.
good for you. I mean, we all start somewhere, and we have to be ready. We have to be ready to start. Sometimes we're in that place of education and contemplating, but you have to be ready. And when
Mm,
you're ready, you make the first next step, right? That you feel ready to make because it can be a little overwhelming,
yeah.
all the things that you could do.
Yeah, it was just on a I'm sort of on a journey, I say a new journey, just kind of finding my health space. Um, I had injured my legs some years ago on the job, and so I had stopped running. But I actually started running again this year. I did my first 5K, and so I'm like, all right, cool. Now I'm back in the game. So I'm like, all right, let me see what else I can add. To be more healthy. Which brings me to another thing that you mentioned. You talked about the mold, and I wanted to ask a couple questions about that. Just the effects that have on us, um, even some of the effects that we don't know that may affect our health. And I mentioned to you before, we started recording that after my mom passed away from cancer. But one of the questions that came up, after the fact was how much a part did maybe mold play in our or in her health and her getting sick. And so we um we were asking about that. We're kind of asking each other about that and kind of looking into that, because one of the things that we did find in it was throughout the whole house, but like in her bedroom, there was some mold, like along the ceiling or whatever. Um, and so, just even with that, how much of an effect do have you found that to be, uh, and not just cancer, but just in other health issues, dealing with the mold? Because even myself, more recently for me, in my apartment building that I stayed in, I noticed that there was mold on the wall. It just appeared one day.
Yeah.
And when I called maintenance and they end up, opening up the wall or whatever, there was leakage from the air conditioning unit above me
Oh,
that was running, water through the wall. And so there was some mold that had built up
yeah.
that they had to replace. So it shows up, and sometimes we don't know, like you mentioned about, living in a space where there's water damage in that area, and you may not know whether it's painted over or replaced or
Right.
whatever. It doesn't always get all of it away. So how much of an effect that could that have on us, or with our health?
Right. A very huge effect. A very huge effect. Statistics say that 95% of all chronic illnesses are due to environmental toxins, and 50%, so the environmental toxins are the pesticides, the chemicals in the air, heavy metals, things we're exposed to in our food, you know, skincare, hair care, all of that. And then 50% of that is from water damage and mold. Um,
Mm.
and mold produces mycotoxins. And when they're produced in a home, in a closed up building, it's very different than when you have mold outside in the sun, in the environment, in fresh air where there's a breeze. It's totally different, especially when it's toxic mold that's in a home that's got material that the mold can feed on. So,
Mhm.
yes, mold can lead to cancer. It suppresses the immune system, and certain molds may make people more at risk for cancer, right? Other people, I had asthma, um, totally gone. 54 years of asthma, totally reversed in 3 months of addressing toxicity in my body. I was a little shocked that that was even possible. Because I had no idea my asthma and my chronic sinus infections were related to mold. But it does suppress the immune system. And I think that's why and all toxicity will suppress the immune system, not just mold. But mold tips people's toxic bucket, right? If you're in a home or an apartment and there's been a leak, sadly, the apartment buildings don't properly address the mold. They remove the source, but they don't remove the toxins that the mold puts out. And so people can move into an apartment that they've removed the source of the water damage, but they didn't clean up or remediate properly the mycotoxins in the air and the other chemicals that the mold puts out that are toxic to our brain, to our gut, to our lymphatic system. So the hard thing about mold is it presents so differently. My husband, son, and I, we were all exposed in our home. My son developed severe colitis, the entire large intestine. His
Mm.
blood work showed Crohn's disease. He was asthmatic, underweight, could not gain weight. My husband was pre-diabetic, metabolic syndrome, high cholesterol, and just blew up like to over, 300 pounds. Didn't matter. I was a dietitian. We were eating healthy. He was exercising and eating right. We could not take the weight off. And I knew nothing about mold, right, during those years that he was putting on the weight. He has now lost 80 pounds. He has reversed his pre-diabetes. It took time. My son, he's an adult, so he wasn't on the healing journey with us. He's sort of in the conventional world. and just treating his symptoms for his colitis. But he recognizes he's been in moldy apartments as an adult and he was in a moldy home. So you go to a doctor and they're not conventional doctors, are not trained in environmental illness. They're not trained in mold unless that doctor's had mold toxicity or chronic inflammatory response syndrome. They don't know what to do with somebody, who's talking about water damage or presents with this host of these crazy symptoms, and everybody in the family is sick, but everybody could have very different symptoms in the family. They're just going to treat the symptom, not the root cause. And then they're going to give you a medicine or a drug that's not addressing the root, but it's actually adding to the toxic burden of the body as well when somebody's already overloaded. So I wish there was an easy way to educate the conventional world that this is a problem, because that's part of my passion. But it happens as those doors open, and sometimes when people experience it, then they become an advocate as a conventional doctor. But usually it's holistic doctors who are trained in dealing with environmental illness and mold toxicity.
Yeah, yeah. So you mentioned toxicity a couple of times. When you say toxicity, does that only refer to like the things in your body, maybe the things that you eat and of that nature, or how much a part does environment also play, in that, on your body? And the reason why I asked that, because I had a conversation actually yesterday. I've been working midnight shifts, which I don't uh tell anyone to work those shifts.
Hard.
But I was having a conversation with one of the guys that I work with, right before we were leaving. And he was saying how, you know, like it seemed like everybody was down, um, as far as like, emotionally, and I was like, well,
Wow.
we work in the dark, number one,
Yeah.
and then the area where we work is dark as well, and there's other chemicals and stuff that we're dealing with because of the nature of our job. And I said, I think, probably for the most part, that has more of an effect on our morale as a, as a group of, individuals working together than we do, just with one another. I think just the
Right.
environment is kind of draining.
Yeah. Well, yeah, definitely environment plays a key. And keep in mind, your whole circadian rhythms are all messed up because you're
Mhm.
working night shifts. So normally, right, sun comes into our eyes and, helps get our cortisol going and helps to wake us up, helps with our melatonin production to get us ready for bedtime. And so, I mean, that can also be playing into the fact, and then on top of it, like you're saying, you're indoors.
Mhm.
But if you're being exposed to toxins, those toxins will impact negatively the gut, and you may not have like major digestive issues, but the gut is where your happy hormones are made, and it depends on who you ask. They say 70 to 90% of our happy hormones are in the gut. So those toxins damage the gut over time, can lead to leaky gut, motility issues, all kinds of different things. So I mean, it's never one thing. Sadly, when
Mhm.
I see people who have chronic issues, um, it's never just mold or mycotoxins. It's always their whole toxic bucket is fuller. They usually have a higher load of parasites, viruses, bacteria in their body, higher load of heavy metals. The body's really good at like protecting us and taking
Mhm.
those toxins and storing it in the fat cells as a protection. And there can just become a point where that overload just sort of overflows into symptoms. And your symptoms might be depression or prediabetes, where my symptoms were neuropathy, insomnia, right?
Mhm.
People can present very, very differently. But truthfully, we all can benefit from addressing toxicity in our body and decreasing, what's coming in, and ruling out mold in the environment if somebody has chronic health problems, or they can't gain weight, or they're gaining weight and they can't lose, or they have an autoimmune disease, or they have Lyme disease, um, or they just have a whole bunch of symptoms, or sinus infections, or asthma. Classic mold exposure to rule that out, but it is a rabbit hole to go down financially, if your home has water damage. So some people don't want to go there. They don't want to go there because it costs money to address the problem and to fix it. So there are a lot of people living in water damage. I have a gal I know, who they literally she's my age, they put her into a nursing home for Alzheimer's or dementia. And we determined it was her home. It was visibly growing mold in the home. And the wife was the one who got sicker than the husband. Not that the husband wasn't well, but the wife had, and it's very common for people to get dementia, Alzheimer's kinds of symptoms from mold exposure, but breaks my heart that something can be done to treat it. But the family wasn't willing to address the home, and they just put her into, and she was 61 years old, and put her into a center.
Oh wow, wow, wow. So I'm loving the conversation, especially around um the health part about it, and dealing with the using our foods to make us better and addressing these different things. I know also we talked a little bit about before we start recording that different programs that you have. You mentioned that you guys have a course. I don't know if that's exactly on, it's the same thing that we're speaking on, but tell us a little bit about the course and the different things that you have offering in the in your services of health.
Or, well, first of all, if anybody needs help, just sort of, if they're looking for a health coach and want to see if we're a good fit, I do a free strategy call, um, to hear what's going on and to give you a sense of my approach. And I really do look at the whole picture. So that information will be, I guess, in your show notes, I think.
Mhm.
The other thing is, somebody's suspicious about mold and they want to learn more about mold. I will give you a link where they can just fill out a form and they will get sent a video and educational training I did with my colleague on mold toxicity and chronic inflammatory response syndrome. You learn all about mold, what it is, what are mycotoxins, how it impacts the body, and next initial steps that you can do to rule out if there's an issue in your body and if there's an issue in your home, because to me, it's just so important for people to be educated on that. So if people are interested in that webinar, I'll have a link for that. If people are interested in a course on all about mold and chronic inflammatory response syndrome, we do have a course called Navigating Mold and Chronic Inflammatory Response Syndrome. It was written for practitioners. We have had many people who had mold and SIRS take the course. And we are getting ready to do a gut reset, 6-week gut reset program beginning in October. So this may come out already, and your podcast may come out
Mhm.
and people may hear this after we've started. But once the program is done and we do it live, it'll be evergreen if people want to take it. And we may do it live again because gut health is so critical to our overall health. And I actually just had some really nasty gut issues that I'm still healing from. I got some contaminated water or something and had Giardia and H. pylori and was vomiting for the last 6 months, and just has totally messed up my digestive system. So I'm still peeling away some layers, healing from that, and has just really taught me so much more about gut
Mhm.
health and motility and all the things, all the things.
Okay, okay. Wow, wow. Heather, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your expertise with us. I'm definitely going to make sure we have all of that information in our show notes, so that even no matter what time, when this someone may come and watch this, they may be able to go back to watch some of the videos and things that you have, or also take part in your services and the course. So Heather, before we leave, I want to give you a chance to leave us with some words of encouragement, inspiration, or information, however you feel. And also your social media handles and things of that nature where we can get in contact with you and follow you for your services. And so I'll give you a couple seconds to think about that. To my listeners, thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Make sure you guys are checking us out. Check us out on our website, the dealhealfulfill.org. Again, that's dealhealfulfill.org, which is our main website, which has our mission, which is to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. That is our mission. Make sure you guys, again, go to the dealhealfulfill.org in order to check that out. Hopefully by soon we'll be doing a whole re-overload of our website. But make sure in the meantime, you guys go check that out. Also, make sure you guys check me out on my personal new website, which is ernestjamesspeakslife.com. Again, that's ernestjamesspeakslife.com in order to have me to come out to be a speaker on your platform, at your school or organization, or to be a workshop facilitator. Make sure you guys go there and check that out. Again, that's ernestjamesspeakslife.com. There's some videos there of some work that I've done, also some workshops that I currently offer. And we'll talk more about new workshops coming up in the future. So make sure you guys go and check that out. Also, make sure you guys go to ebooksbyejames.com, which is our website where our ebooks are stored, where you can go to purchase them. There are several ebooks that we have available right now, including the core four, should I say, which is the 4 core values that every daughter should get from her father, which is also an ebook that we talk about on the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. And it's really those core values as fathers that we pour into our daughters. And so you guys, again, go to ebooksbyejames.com to check out that ebook as well as some others that we have available. Make sure you guys are checking that out. Also, dealtohealtees.com is our inspirational t-shirt line. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear an inspirational tee and be inspired all day. That is our tagline. Make sure you guys go there to get your official Deal, Heal, Fulfill t-shirt, which I am always wearing for the most part. You can go there to get your t-shirt, as well as check out our podcast merch t-shirts, which is our t-shirts with our podcast logos on it. There's one for the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, and there's also a t-shirt with the logo for the Girl Dad Discussions podcast that you guys can check out as well. Again, that's dealtohealtees.com. Deal, the number 2, healtees.com. Last but not least, over the last couple of years, I've been blessed to be a part of an organization called the Forgiveness Mission. And what we do, we have free virtual workshops every other month. And these workshops, we talk about everything surrounding forgiveness, forgiveness of self, forgiveness of others, forgiveness of the world, forgiveness and healing, how unforgiveness affects our body, just everything surrounding forgiveness, because we believe it is a very important topic, and it helps us to release so much stress and some of the things that we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. So you guys can go to forgivenessmission.com to sign up for our next free virtual workshop. Whenever you're listening to this, either one just ended or there's one coming up. So you can go again to forgivenessmission.com to sign up for our next free virtual workshop. The workshop is absolutely free, but the information is priceless. Again, forgivenessmission.com, or you could go to Eventbrite and look up the Forgiveness Workshop sponsored by the Forgiveness Mission. Make sure you guys go and check that out. It's been several years we've been doing that. I think 4 years at this point. We've been doing that free virtual workshop, and it's always great every time that we do it. So make sure you guys go and check that out. Miss Heather, thank you once again for coming on to share your story, sharing your expertise with us. I want you to have the last word, so the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Ernest, so much for allowing me to share. I want to give people hope that if they're struggling with any chronic health issues and they're not getting answers, especially from the conventional system, that there is a root cause. Usually there's multiple root issues, as we've sort of hit on. And if I can get well after 28 years of being sick and 20 plus years of total disability, and now I'm working and running 2 businesses, anybody can get well. You just have to have a desire to do the work, and be motivated to make a shift. So that's really what I want to leave people with, is hope that they can get to the bottom of why they're not feeling the way they want to be feeling. If people want to reach out to me, they can reach out to me at healthcoachingbyheather.com, which is my website. My email is healthcoachingbyheather@gmail.com. I'll put my handles in the show notes. They are not the same as my website. They're all different because I didn't know what I was doing when I got started, and now it's too hard to change with the followers that I have. So I'll put those links in the show notes for you. But love to have you follow me on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube, but wherever you feel led.
All right. And I'm sure that we will can't end it no better than that. To my listeners, thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, where our mission is to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. Until next time, you guys be blessed. Hey guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, then I know you'll enjoy the Girl Dad Discussion podcast. I'm your host, Ernest James, and I believe the relationship between a daughter and her father is one of the most important relationships a young lady can have. And therefore, my mission is to promote the daddy-daughter relationship by sharing the voices of girl dads to the world. So check out our podcast on every platform where podcasts can be listened to. And if you want to watch the podcast, check us out on our YouTube channel. Again, that's the Girl Dad Discussions podcast with your host, Ernest James. Thanks for listening to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Remember to listen, like, subscribe, and share. This episode has been brought to you by Deal to Heal Teas. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear an inspirational tea and be inspired all day. Let's go to dealtohealteas.myshopify.com. Remember, our mission is to help you to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for listening.